Caleb Harris had just returned from studying abroad, eager to experience firsthand the grandeur of the Grand Imperial Hotel, the crown jewel of luxury and prestige, and the heart of the empire his mother, Vanessa Harris, had built from the ground up. Though he had seen this architectural marvel featured in countless magazines and business journals, this would be his first time walking through its doors as a guest. After years away from home, he was ready to witness the legacy his mother had created with her vision and determination. The towering structure gleamed beneath the afternoon sun, its marble columns framing the grand entrance like sentinels of wealth. Through the towering glass doors, Caleb could make out the glimmer of the massive golden chandelier that was the centerpiece of the lobby. A plush red carpet stretched beyond the doors and into the opulent heart of the hotel, where guests moved with quiet grace and polished elegance, the very picture of wealth and privilege. Dragging his sleek carry-on suitcase across the pristine marble driveway, Caleb approached the entrance with an excitement that he kept carefully tempered beneath a calm exterior. He was expecting the kind of seamless service and treatment that came with an establishment of this stature. However, as soon as he stepped inside, something felt off. It wasn't the setting. The soaring ceilings, tasteful decor, and the muted murmur of classical music piped through hidden speakers were just as he had imagined. No, it was the people. Their gazes flicked toward him, quick and assessing, before darting away again. The doorman hesitated a fraction of a second longer than he should have before pulling open the door. The bellhop near the entrance spared him only the briefest glance before turning away, as if assuming Caleb wouldn't need or deserve assistance. Behind the sleek reception desk, the staff bustled with choreographed precision. But as Caleb approached, there was no warm greeting. Their expressions were unreadable, distant. Still, Caleb straightened his posture and approached the front desk with an air of quiet confidence. Sitting behind the reception was Simone Grant, the hotel's manager. She was in her early 40s, impeccably dressed in a tailored navy blue suit, with dark hair swept back into a neat twist. Her sharp brown eyes remained fixed on her computer screen as Caleb stopped in front of her station. "Good afternoon," he said, offering a polite smile. "I have a reservation under Caleb Harris." At the mention of his name, Simone's eyes flickered up to him. They swept over his appearance, his designer sneakers, tailored slacks, crisp white shirt, before landing on his skin. There was a brief pause, almost imperceptible, but Caleb caught it. A flicker of skepticism crossed her features, and though she masked it quickly with professional composure, the lack of warmth was impossible to ignore. "You're sure you're in the right place?" she asked, her tone cool, distant, bordering on dismissive. Caleb's smile didn't falter. "Quite sure," he replied evenly. He pulled out his phone, tapping the screen with measured calmness. "Here's my confirmation email. The Grand Imperial, correct?" Simone took the phone from him with a swiftness that bordered on snatching. She glanced over the reservation, her expression remaining unimpressed. Without so much as looking back at the computer, she gave a curt nod. "Oomph," she muttered, setting the phone aside and finally beginning to type. Slowly, as he waited, Caleb noticed other guests arriving behind him. They were greeted with professional warmth, checked in swiftly, key cards in hand within minutes. Meanwhile, Simone seemed to drag her fingers across the keyboard as if each stroke was an effort. Minutes passed, then 5, then 10. "Is there a problem?" Caleb asked, his voice polite but edged with firmness. Simone finally glanced up. "It seems I can't locate your reservation in the system," she said flatly. "Are you sure you booked at this hotel?" Caleb's jaw tensed, but he held his composure. "I showed you the confirmation already. Would you like to see it again?" With an audible sigh, Simone shook her head. "That won't be necessary," she replied, her voice heavy with impatience. "We don't accept walk-ins for our higher-tier suites." Caleb's patience began to fray at the edges. "I'm not a walk-in," he said, keeping his tone level. "My reservation is under Caleb Harris." Simone's thin smile never reached her eyes. "I don't see your name anywhere in the system," she repeated. "You may want to try another hotel." The sting of her words lingered in the air long after she spoke them. Caleb knew this wasn't about an absent reservation. It was about the assumption Simone had made the moment she saw him. Without another word, Caleb took a seat in the lobby. His suitcase stood at his side, an unwanted companion to his quiet wait. Time slipped by as a low hum of activity buzzed through the grand space. Bellhops wheeled carts laden with designer luggage. Guests sipped cocktails from delicate crystal glasses, and faint piano music drifted through the marble columns. Yet Caleb might as well have been invisible. Not a single staff member approached him. A waiter circled the room, offering drinks, but bypassed him entirely. Guests glanced at him from time to time, but quickly looked away. It wasn't the kind of attention one might expect in such a hotel. It was the calculated disregard of someone who had already decided he didn't belong. An hour passed. Caleb checked his watch, rose from his seat, and returned to the front desk. Simone was still there, typing with exaggerated slowness. "Excuse me," Caleb said. His voice was steady, though colder now. "I've been waiting for over an hour. Would you kindly check my reservation again?" Simone's gaze flicked up, cold and dismissive. "As I said before, there's nothing under your name." "I showed you proof," Caleb reminded her, his patience thinning. "My reservation is valid. I'd like you to take a proper look." "I've already explained our policy," Simone replied smoothly. "We don't allow walk-ins for our suites." Caleb took a deep breath. He had done everything by the book. He had made the reservation, presented confirmation, waited patiently. And still, he was treated as an interloper. Around him, the lobby continued as usual. A family of four laughed as they checked in. A businessman shook hands with the concierge as his room was readied in seconds. Caleb had waited long enough. He leaned in slightly. "Either you check my reservation properly," he said, his voice low and tight with controlled anger, "or you give me a valid explanation as to why I'm being ignored." For the first time, Simone seemed unsettled. "You can wait in the lobby while I verify," she said, turning back to her screen without another glance in his direction. Caleb returned to his seat, jaw tight, anger simmering just beneath the surface. Another 30 minutes dragged by. Guests came and went. Bellhops continued their polished dance of efficiency. Simone never so much as looked his way. Then, just as Caleb was considering his next move, the massive glass doors swung open with sudden force, drawing every eye in the lobby. Vanessa Harris had arrived. She strode into the Grand Imperial with a presence that silenced conversation mid-sentence. Dressed in a sharp crimson suit, her heels clicked against the marble floor like a metronome of power and precision. Her gaze swept the room with predatory focus, landing squarely on Simone. The color drained from Simone's face. She straightened instantly, the facade of control she'd worn for the past hour crumbling in the face of the woman who built the very institution she now served. "I find this situation curious," Vanessa said smoothly, though her tone carried the unmistakable edge of steel. "My son has been sitting here for over an hour. Care to explain why?" Simone opened her mouth, but Vanessa was already advancing, her gaze never wavering. "You've stalled Caleb Harris, my son," Vanessa continued, her voice rising just enough for the gathered guests and staff to hear. "You treated him as though he did not belong, as though he were an intruder." The silence was suffocating. Simone fumbled for words, but Vanessa cut her off with a simple gesture. "I'm not interested in excuses," she said. "You've made your choice. Now you will face the consequences." Simone's eyes widened as Vanessa turned toward the gathered staff. "This isn't just about one mistake. It's about a culture of assumption, of bias, of disrespect. And it ends now." Vanessa's words hung in the air like an unbreakable commandment. "Starting tomorrow, every employee, from the bellhops to management, will undergo mandatory training on bias, discrimination, and customer ethics. Refusal to participate will result in immediate termination. No one dare move." Vanessa's sharp gaze returned to Simone. "You have 10 minutes to clear out your office," she said. "If you're still here after that, security will escort you out." I didn't mean," Simone began, but Vanessa silenced her with a glance. "Don't," she said coldly. "You've done enough." Simone retreated, face pale, disappearing into the staff corridor without another word. Vanessa turned to Caleb. Her expression softened. "Are you all right?" she asked. Caleb nodded slowly. "I am now." "Good," she said. "You've waited long enough." Together, they walked toward the elevators. Caleb's suitcase in tow, they left behind a lobby forever changed. The Grand Imperial Hotel would never be the same again. And for the first time in a long time, Caleb knew he belonged.